Sports presents the Professional Bowlers Tour. This week's stop takes the professional bowlers to the Sunshine City, Tucson, Arizona, the second oldest stop on the tour. In his first championship appearance, placing fifth from Indianapolis, Indiana, Randy Stoughton. In fourth position in his second telecast this year from Chicago, Mark Fahy. Looking for his second title this season in third place from Vancouver, USA, Ernie Schlegel. Holding the second position, last week's third place finisher from St. Louis, Missouri, Pete Weber. And our leader going into today's championship round in his very first appearance from Erie, Pennsylvania, Palombi Jr. Today, one of these bowlers will win the top prize of $16,000. Ah, yes, and our third stop on the spring tour brings us to the Golden Pin Lanes in sunny Tucson, Arizona. The professional bowlers have been coming to this desert city for a total of 23 years, 10 of those years right here. Good afternoon, I'm Chris Schenkel. Welcome to our telecast. The field is varied today. We have two non-winners. The three that have won have a cumulative total of 6 championships. The man with many more is my weekly colleague. Today, he's down on the lanes once again, back-to-back down on the lanes. For Nelson Burton Jr., Bo, tell us about the surface.
Thank you, Chris. Last week, we saw John the Buzzsaw Gant win the Denver Open on an artificial lane surface, no wood at all. This week at Tucson, we have the traditional lane surface, but our host, Pete Thomas, has done something a little different. He has taken the front part of the lane, the maple part, and had it resurfaced every year. And what that does is make the front of the lane and the back of the lane pretty equally smooth, and so the bowler's ball reacts way down the lane, so it won't take speed and power this week. It'll take that nice, smooth, even stroke to be the winner of this tournament.
The Professional Bowler Spring Tour. This ABC Sports exclusive is brought to you by Sharp Electronic Corporation. From Sharp Minds come Sharp Products. By light beer from Miller. Everything you've always wanted in a beer and less. And by Sure Antiperspirant. You can raise your hand if you're sure, because Sure Antiperspirant has enough powerful protection to help you stay dry all day long.
Here we are now ready for our first match. 29-year-old Randy Stoughton of Indianapolis, Indiana, going against Chicago's Mark Fahy. 1 PBA title, 4 years as a pro. Big fellow, 225-pounder on a 6-foot 1-inch frame. 26 years old. First shot. And leaving a 4-pin on the left lane of our championship pair here at the Golden Pin Lanes. Bo?
Chris, the characteristic of the championship pair is the left-hand lane hooks about 4 boards more than the right-hand lane. It's caused by 2 reasons. Number one, the pine is a little softer on the left-hand lane, and the lane maintenance crew that it does the PBA lanes didn't put quite as much oil on the left lane, causing it to hook a little more. And you see him going right by with too much hook, Chris.
Yes, and in his second appearance on our telecast this year, that is a devastating circumstance for Mark Fahy of Chicago. Now, for the first time in the championship round appearance in the 4 years he's been a pro, Randy Stoughton of Indianapolis, a non-winner. Confidence building strike here on the right lane of the championship pair. Non-winner, that is PBA titles. Of course, he had to win to get into the number 5 position.
The profile of Randy Stoughton, you can see that arm being wrapped behind his back, right in the center of his back, and then he lines it up with his target, gets it nice and close to that left ankle, a good loft, a good lift, and he gets an ideal result on his first shot. He can take a commanding 21-pin lead here in the second frame with a double.
Now the bowling proprietor up to the line. Oh, goodness. High hit, leaving the 3, 6, 9, 10.
The residue of the loop in the arm swing on that shot as he looks skyward. And what happens is he gets that ball behind his back and then doesn't wait for the ball as he did in the first frame and pulls it through. Never gave it enough room, and he has a very difficult spare, the 3, 6, 9, 10.
One of his biggest problems, he told us, is controlling his temper. Nicely done. Randy Stoughton going against Mark Fahy. Jumps out to an 11-pin lead over Fahy with an open frame, a count of 9, now shooting in the second, hoping to come back. All right, the man that averaged 197.5 when he crossed this pair in the competition, Mark Fahy, with a strike as we replay his stroke.
Fahy with that powerful style, powerful body, short backswing, cupped wrist, and a good knee bend as he comes through. And watch the wrist action as he releases the ball. Well out over the line, good extension, and a hard snap with the wrist. Gets a good result. The 2-pin tripped out the 4, the 4 of the 9. He can cut the lead of Stoten down to 1 pin with a double.
Capacity crowd. He'll settle for that crossover strike. Why not? The Chicagoan going against the Hoosier from Indianapolis. Randy Stoughton, strike, and a spare. We have fans overhead here to keep the air moving in this desert city. Nice facility, Golden Pin Lanes. Randy was right down on the boards trying to root that in, but he has left a 4-pin.
There's a key to every pair of bowling lanes. As you can see the trajectory of Stoughton's ball on that shot. You can almost go straight at the pocket on the right-hand lane, lane 16, and you have to swing the ball or trust it on the left-hand lane. Now, the players have not made a light shot on the left-hand lane yet. We saw Fahy high in the first frame, we saw Stoten high, and then Fahy crossing over in the third. The key is going to be the left-hand lane, Chris.
Okay. Continuing to mark Randy Stoughton. Now, the winner of this match will meet Ernie Schlegel, colorful Ernie Schlegel, then dynamite performer named Pete Weber from St. Louis, Missouri, followed by the tournament leader Ron Palombi Jr. of Erie, Pennsylvania, one of the 2 non-winners. So it's the 5th place finisher in this field of 155 and the 1st place finisher that have yet to win. Two, 4, 5, knocking out at the last moment the 8.
The strategy for the championship pair, you cannot throw the ball hard to overcome the dry lane surface. You see Randy adjust by throwing the ball a little harder, and it slides by. Remember, the heads are the front part of the lane. The maple surface has been resurfaced, and it causes the ball to slide very far down the lane if you try to muscle it or throw it too hard.
And the 188-pounder covers them. A late starter on the Professional Bowlers Tour, Randy Stoughton, is trailing by 3. We'll be back.
This camping trip was
on the left, Randy Stoughton going against Mark Fahy, who was up and ready. With a 3-pin lead, can increase it to 13. Working on a double, shooting in the 4th frame of our first match. If you just joined us, the winner to meet Ernie Schlegel, then Pete Weber, and then Ron Palumbi. A 3-bagger, Mark Fahy of Chicago. Had a very slow start here in 1984, and we asked him what he did to turn it around. You're looking at this 26-year-old professional from Chicago.
I started off real bad in 1984, slow, and I had a problem trying to keep my weight off lately, so I just started watching my diet, practicing a lot more, and now I made the last 4 straight finals in a row, and I'm improving, and I'll be tough the rest of this year.
And the biggest advocate of conditioning is to my right, Hall of Famer Nelson Burton Jr. That conditioning is so important.
It helps you a long way on the Pro Bowlers Tour, and definitely if you want to last a few years.
Well, 10-pin.
Solid 10. These bowling pins we're rolling at today, Chris, have 1,500 games on them, and usually that's an ideal scoring point because the pins are beat in a little bit, the plastic next to the wood, and they still fly just right. Now, that particular shot was a solid 10 cross lane for Mark Fahy.
It's a lot of speed on that 16-pound bowling ball, covering the 10-pin. Marking with a spare. I had an open frame, then a 3-bagger and a spare. Now, Randy Stoughton trailing by 12. He had an early lead lost it. Now using most of the approach on the right lane. Spare working for Randy, 5th frame. Here you see the field, 160. The average to cash bow, 211.6.
217 to make the top 24. A very good scoring tournament. Here's the breakdown. The winner's 16,000 plus a possible trip to the Firestone Tournament of Champions, which is extra money. 82.50, 6,000, 5,000, and the loser of this game will receive 4,000. Randy Stoughton to cut Mark Fahy's lead to just 2 pins here with a double, 6th frame.
And the man who had the lead going into the final block of 8 games last night leaves the 610. We asked Randy why at age 29 he came out on the professional bowling tour full time. Here's his answer.
Well, Bo, as you know, in '79 I came out in the summer and I bowled the winter of '80, and then I ran into financial problems and I had to go back home and go back to work. And then last year I got an opportunity from an individual to send me back out, and I decided to take advantage of it.
Hard-working young man. Works for some old friends of mine. The Stark Wetzel Company, a meatpacking company in Indianapolis Bow, and he's been a mechanic, proprietor, now enjoying the tour.
A nice young man. He also wanted me to say that he's dedicating today's performance to his grandmother in the hospital, who enjoys his bowling and is very ill.
Mark finished 4th this year at Overland Park, Kansas, King Louis Open. Oh, little love tap. Beautiful, beautiful.
He always can use a break, and he really got a good break. He went right through the heart, and here we go. Look at this. The ball is really not in a good spot. You see the 6, 7, 10 split standing, and all of a sudden the head pin, the 3 pin do the damage. And watch the reaction of Fahy here. He's got to be happy.
Call him Beef. He's big.
Two really good breaks in a row.
He had a 3-bagger. Now he's got a double and a 22-pin lead here in this very first match. The winner will meet colorful Ernie Schlegel in our second game, but the first is far from over. Finals of it coming up following this. Trotter's end.
Chris, the World High Diving Championships, 110 feet up in the air, and tell you what, you don't hit the water right from that altitude, there's some impact. It's a great event. It's easy to watch.
All right, Randy Stoughton, who had the lead early in this first match, now trailing by 22, spare working, and it's the big 7th frame for him. It's getting late. Can't believe that the 7-pin is still there.
Everything's gone Mark Fahy's way so far in the match. He left that solid 10 in the 5th, but Fahy got a good break in the 6th and 7th. Randy Stoughton throws the ball light, has a good strong ball, and normally would carry the 7-pin. Leaves it here in the 7th frame. The match is far but over.
He has 3 big rooters and his 2 brothers, Ron and Rick, and his sister, Kelly. He's carefully preparing himself for his next shot, the 8th frame, as you see, with that spare and trailing by 23. First match.
The key for Randy Stoughton is to hit the left-hand lane. He has to finish on this lane in the 10th frame, and he hasn't even been close. He's been high on every shot except in the last frame. He threw it too hard.
It's a high hit. He expected the 6 to go, but it didn't.
And it's kind of an empathetic shot that he throws here. He's trying to play around the second arrow, and he just throws the ball, and he pulls it inside the second arrow, and it goes right in the nose. Watch the shot here. Stoughton across lane, easy spare.
On this pair, during competition, he averaged 231.5. He's far from that right now. That's probably why he appears to be upset. Got to control it. And the Chicago competitor, 26-year-old Mark Fahy. Double working, 8th frame. And the young man who's earned $19,655 this far this year could add $16,000 right today if he can go all the way.
He has Randy Stoughton on the ropes. Fahy going at a 2:28 pace right now. Could increase that to a 2:38 pace with a strike here in the 9th frame. The best Randy Stoughton can do is 2:14.
There you see his signature. Pretty good.
See that on the top of a big check if he keeps throwing the way he is right now.
Ten-pin.
That was the put-away shot, but he left the solid 10. If he converts here, he'll still be going at a 2:27 pace, and he'll force Stoten to strike out to have any chance at all. Here's the relays. Now watch the reaction. He knows it's a good shot.
From Chicago, Mark Fahy. From Indianapolis now, up quickly, Randy Stoughton. Randy's first championship round appearance in 4 years. High finishes, 10th in the Long Island Open, 15th in the Miller High Life Open in Milwaukee, 25th in the Showboat Invitational. Next week we're in Riverside, week off for the U.S. Open, and then the doubles at the Showboat in Vegas. High hit, and mentally, though, and I guess otherwise that about does it.
That's just about it, Chris. He goes right through the heart. He pointed the ball up on the right-hand lane. He leaves the 4, 6, 7, 9, 10. He has to go for it and just hope that he can bounce it off the 4-pin or the 7-pin. So if he doesn't make this, it's all over. Give it a good try.
He certainly did. Certainly did. And remember, it's his first appearance on this national telecast where the pressure is heavy, the lights are bright, and it takes experience. Mark Fahy, who's 3 years younger, has 1 title in his 4 years on the tour. So it'll be Fahy meeting Ernie Schlegel. The PBT will continue after this message and a word from our local stations. Hall of shirts. There they are. Worn by Dick Weber and, of course, our commentator prior to you, the late Billy Whalou. And I know you're very proud to see in what I think is the greatest sports museum and Hall of Fame in America.
It's nice to have it in St. Louis, Chris, and it's a great hall, and it's open for all the players and all the people and bowling fans throughout the country. As you see, another real tight match coming up, our second match, the veteran Ernie Schlegel with the straight ball going against the powerful winner of the first match, Mark Fahy. It'll be a real contrast in styles, and it'll be a tough match, Chris.
Okay, that match will get underway in a moment. We want to remind you that ABC's Monday Night Baseball is back live at 8 Eastern. Check your local listings for the game in your area. It could be the Toronto Blue Jays against the red-hot Detroit Tigers, or Cincinnati Reds against the Los Angeles Dodgers, Dodger Stadium in California. That's Monday Night Baseball is back, and so is Ernie Schlegel, the colorful 40-year-old, the great get-up. That'll go in that National Bowling Hall of Fame and Museum someday.
The contrast in style, the contrast in angles of these two players. Ernie, the veteran with a lot of moxie, a lot of know-how, the old match game shooters. You see the numbers on Ernie, 41 years old, 158 pounds. He's in pretty good physical condition. But Chris, he never beats himself. He keeps the ball in play. He doesn't throw the powerful strike ball, but he doesn't miss many spares, and he doesn't get many open frames.
With the shades now. And the 2-4 is gone. From Vancouver, USA. That's just across the line, Oregon, in the state of Washington, about 50,000 people. He likes to call it Vancouver, USA. Mark Fahy shot at 227 to Randy Stoughton's 174, and his 227 included 7 strikes, shooting first now in the second game. Fahy of Chicago. Beautifully done. And with that strike, Bo, I noticed he gave Ernie Schlegel that long, hard, psych look.
Well, there was a little verbal volleyball, should I say, that they had in the locker room before they came out, and Schlegel was goading Mark Fahy and how he was going to whip him, and Fahy doesn't take much goading from anybody. As you recall, he was a semi-finalist in the CYC Heavyweight Boxing Championships in Chicago, so he can handle himself off the lanes. Let's see how he does on the lanes with Schlegel.
And the ex-amateur boxer has left the 4-pin on the left lane.
Fahy, as he goes just a pinch high, the 2-pin goes to the sideboard, almost takes out the 4 and the 7, knocks the 7 out, leaves the 4. Fahy, trying to make it hold, has an easy spare. He'll have 20 in the first, spare in the second with a conversion.
Okay, we are underway with the second match. Schlegel and Fahy, the winner to meet Pete Weber of St. Louis. Schlegel now testing off that bowling ball. And Bo, it was great to see your family at the dinner last night, which I had the pleasure of talking. And Nelson Sr., Hall of Famer, father-son. That's rare.
Well, I understand that, of course, I wasn't there. My brother, my sister, and my mother.
Yes. And the curator, who deserves a great pat on the back, that is Bruce Pluckhahn. What a job he's done.
Ernie Schlegel with just a nice, smooth style. His arm swing is better than it's ever been in his life, Chris. It's straight, just a little above the shoulder. Now watch the good extension and release. He comes straight through with that follow-through. Now you see him with that follow-through, he's going to knock down a lot of pins. If you start seeing it become erratic and short and just kind of like a bullwhip release, then he's in trouble.
Third appearance on our telecast this year. Knew that one was gone the minute he released it.
We remember how Ernie Schlegel used to be such a slow player up on the approach. As he turns away from the shot, leaves the 1-2 spare. Really a good break. Could have left the 1-2-7 to the 1-2-4-7-10. He just rushed the shot. Sometimes he's out of sync and he's out of pace, so he has an easy spare.
The man who on the winter tour, the Maestro Brow Open, finished 4th. About 6 weeks later, he came back in the Long Island Open to win, and that put him back in the Firestone Tournament of Champions. And he finished 6th. Tough. The winner is our statistician, Mike Durbin.
Mike Durbin, Firestone winner 3 times, working with us today, and he's also won the Tucson Open before. Fahy's really throwing that ball nice. He's in good shape. You can see that 15-pound weight loss since the beginning of the winter has made a big difference with his confidence and with his release. He drives all 10 pins in the pit, almost leaves a solid 8. But Fahy looks sharper than I've ever seen him on his career out here on the tour. With a double here on the left-hand lane, he would have Schlegel down by 10, a spare. The match would be all even. As Fahy asked for a second re-rack, and the rule simply for the championship round on TV is that if a player wants, he can have 3 re-racks in any game. After that, he must turn to National Tournament Director Harry Golden and ask for the 4th re-rack.
Good-looking championship pair, which you described as we came on the air, Nelson, lanes 15 and 16.
You can see the front part, the 17 feet, looks a little more bleached than the pine part of the lane, and that's the difference that this pair has over most lanes or most bowling centers. The ball skids much farther.
Oh, the Chicago Express is rolling. With that double, he takes a 10-pin lead. He won the first match, now going against Schlegel. We'll be back. Spring Tour telecasts. Ernie Schlegel, who finished 3rd in his first game going against the first match winner, Mark Fahy, trailing by 10, spare up shooting in the 4th frame. All right, he left the 10-pin, and down on near the approach is Nelson Burton Jr., Bo.
Thank you, Chris. The man who's got the hot hand on the PBA Tour, who just went through a rehabilitation program, is up there again today. And Pete, can you tell us what made you realize that you had a problem?
Well, when I was drinking and using the drugs, my temper was very short-fused, and whenever anybody would say anything that would upset me, I'd really get mad at them, and I'd say things to them that I really wouldn't say as a person to them, because they really are my friends.
Who had the biggest influence on you to go ahead and take the rehabilitation program?
Well, Dad told me about 50 times that I needed help, and about the 51st time, it really sank in a lot, so I decided, well, it's about time to straighten up. So I did.
Chris, he's straightened up, and he looks sharper than ever. He'll be in the next match.
Doesn't he, though? 21 years of age. Here's a 40-year-old professional. We can tell Pete that his mom, Juanita, and his dad, Dick, are very proud of him. So are we. Beautiful. A little bit high, but what a powerful bowling ball. Ernie Schlegel, and he needed that because he was trailing by 11. Here's that hit, Bo. It's a beauty.
Solid in the pit. Down and in shot for Schlegel. Drives all 10 pins in the pit. They're using 3-pound, 6-ounce pins this week. But with a hit like that, he could have knocked over 4-pounders.
And now for a 3-bagger. How do you convert that, Nelson?
You have to shoot to the left side, drive the head pin over into the 10-pin area. As you see, Mark Fahy for 42 games, position after 6 games, he was second, then he 14th, then he ended up making the top 5. His ball slides wide. The 1, 2, 4, 8, 10 have to drive the head pin over in the 10-pin.
All right. So it's an open frame, which Mark had in the very first frame in his victory against Randy Stoughton of Indianapolis, 227 to 174.
What a big turnaround. As you see Ernie Schlegel kneeling behind the lane, studying the racks. I'll tell you, he thinks of everything all the time. He's trying to psych his opponent out there. It's all very fair. Just check the racks out. But the contrast in style is showing up. Schlegel has kept the ball in play through 5 frames. He's letting Mark Fahy beat himself, but the match is a long way from over.
With the look of, so there, take that. Heck of a lot better than an open. After our Professional Bowlers Tour telecast, it'll be ABC's Wide World of Sports, the Harlem Globetrotters in Hong Kong, the Men's World High Diving Championship, and a preview of the United States Open Golf Championship.
And, Chris, I like the diving, as you see it right there. 110 feet. I've taken a shot from 76 feet a few times, and if you don't hit it just right from 76, you go home with a lump on your shoulder, and I can imagine 110 feet, you have to be absolutely perfect.
Bo, you must have had a good entry in the water. I see no ill effects.
Time cures a lot of things.
We've seen a lot of accidents in that event.
It is dangerous.
Mm-hmm. He was hoping for a double to increase his lead. Ernie and his company have developed a new product to help junior bowlers. We asked him to tell us about it.
Well, 2 years ago, I got involved with the bowling ball company, and I've always noticed that the young kids could never have a chance to bowl because the bowling balls are too heavy. Well, now my company has developed a 5-pound bowling ball to allow the real young kids to have a good physical game right from the start.
And how often have we seen that happen?
Well, he said he developed a 5-pound bowling ball for the junior bowlers, and unfortunately on that particular shot, his hit like 5 pounds. He needed a little more weight to carry the ball through the 2, 5, and carry out the 8. You see the ball deflect and not get the 8-pin. And that's where that double wood is always the toughest thing. And that's something that Schlegel normally doesn't do. When a person gives him an open like Fahy did in the 5th frame, Schlegel usually jumps right on him. But Fahy has now taken the lead sitting on the bench.
Leaving a 4-pin.
Ernie, who is legally blind in his left eye, Chris, he has a 20/800 vision in his left eye. It's a birth defect, and it doesn't bother him a bit with his bowling, and he's just as tough as ever. Easy spare.
The man who loves pocket billiards as well as his full-time job, professional bowling, Ernie Schlegel. Close match. We'll be back.
Travels to Riverside, California for the $115,000 Southern California Open. Jimmy Fritz Jr., coming off a good winter season, will attempt to defend his title. Join us next Saturday live on ABC.
2 more stops on the spring tour in 3 weeks. Next week, Southern California Open, Riverside, and then Bo, a week off for the U.S. Open
And we go to the Showboat Invitational Doubles Classic, which is always one of the highlights of the year. And next week is a new stop, Chris, in the Riverside. The players have never been there, and we'll have a very strong field when we get all the way over to the West Coast.
Are you going to compete?
Bo Burton will be there on Tuesday. Get my feet wet on the spring tour, see how tough these guys really are.
Okay. Strike up. Now that's the second time today that he's crossed over. And marking with a strike. And for Mark Fahy, important one because it's a double and a 12-pin lead in his second match.
See the trajectory of Mark Fahy's ball. He's going right over the second arrow, and then he crosses over to the left side. Watch this, a great break. We call it the Brooklyn. It's the 1-2. John Gant would be proud of that, being a left-hander, but Mark Fahy will take it. Let's see if he can capitalize on it and increase his lead to 22. Boy, oh boy, did he put a nice, relaxed stroke on that ball. He took advantage of that break and has really put the Schlegel under the gun. Solid in the pocket, all 10. See that 6-pin drive out that 10-pin? Schlegel has to get it going. He's going a 187 pace, Fahy at a 209 pace.
And the man that will win the shirt contest in any match, Ernie Schlegel, leads 2-4-5.
He seems a bit sedated today as we watch Kathleen Schlegel, who just flew down from Portland up in Oregon, their home area, to watch Ernie today. And Ernie's not that aggressive, Ernie Schlegel, that we've seen every time out there, Chris, especially in his victory there in Long Island.
That was a spare for Ernie in the 8th frame of our second game. The winner to meet Pete Weber from St. Louis.
Ernie goes over and checks the scoreboard. He's in a must situation. Best he can shoot is 204. Fahy going in a 209 place. Schlegel must get some strikes going here. 9th frame. The lanes are just too slick for the type of ball that Ernie Schlegel rolls. We talked about at the opening of how the lanes are slick, and the ball will not react down the lane. It'll slide much farther, and his ball is sliding all 60 feet. He needed to start breaking about 18 feet from the pins.
Schlegel, who has 3 titles to his credit in 17 years. His best year was 1980 when he won twice within a 2-month period. Ended a run of 12 years as a PBI member without winning a title by capturing the King Louis Open in Kansas. Fahy with 1 title.
I have never seen that hit, Chris.
Nope.
And that leave in all the years I've been on the PBA 2. The 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Unbelievable.
And Bo, you bent that ball out about where you were at the opening of our telecast describing the surfaces here.
Well, the way he has to attack this is try to hit the 2-pin very light and let it go to the sideboard. He's taking a good shot.
All but one. Courageous effort on the part of Mark Fahy. Mark, remember, won the first match with 7 strikes, 227, to Randy Stoughton's 174.
The situation is very tight now. Fahy has given Schlegel an opening as we go into the 9th and 10th frame. Fahy going at a 172 place, Schlegel at a 183 place. Anybody can win the match.
Really love that. What a competitor. Perspires a bit. Shows his desire.
Here comes the big shot. He's solid in the 10th frame. If he strikes here in the 11th and gets a 2-pin count, he will shut out Schlegel. If Mark Fahy does not strike on this ball, Schlegel can get up in the 10th frame and either tie or win the match.
What a match. Took a little speed off that shot, leaving 3-6.
3-6. The best he can shoot is 192. Ernie Schlegel with 3 strikes can win the match. He's in a must situation.
Look at him. He's jogging, running in place, Schlegel. Fired up now. What he feels will be an opportunity.
A pin rolled around and moved the 6-pin off spot, which actually caused Mark to chop that split, but he cannot remove it. It has to be knocked over by the machine, Chris. So it's a 191 game. The situation for Ernie Schlegel is simply this. He must strike on the 10th, 11th, and get 9 or a strike on the fill ball. Mark Fahy once again opened the 11th frame as he left the 3-6, the 6-pin rolling off spot. Really didn't affect his shot that much. He chopped it, cost him 1 pin. Schlegel in a must-strike situation.
Hoping. Pressure.
It's all over.
It's all over. One swing of the arm in bowling. What a tough, competitive game. Mark Fahy has won his second match. He'll meet Pete Weber after this. Spring Tour, Mark Fahy in a tight match against Ernie Schlegel has won his second, 191 to 180. He now will go against tough 21-year-old Pete Weber from St. Louis, Missouri. Nelson Burton Jr. ready now for the Rolaids tip of the week. It's how to prepare the ball surface to work with the lane surface where you're competing. Very informative. Watch and listen to both.
There are a number of methods that a player can use to adjust to the various lane conditions. If the lanes are dry, he can move to the left on the approach. If the lanes are slick, he can move to the right on the approach. Another method is throwing the ball much harder on dry lanes and shortening your swing and rolling it much slower on slick lanes. A third method is changing bowling balls. If the lanes are very dry, use a hard bowling ball. If the lanes are very slick, use a soft bowling ball. Those are 3 great methods. But today's bowling tip will give you a 4th and alternative method using just 1 bowling ball to adjust to all lane surfaces. Here are the methods the pros use to adjust to lane conditions using just 1 bowling ball. If the lanes are dry and the ball is hooking too much, the pros will take some wax and apply it to the outer surface of the ball in the track area, then buff that wax in. With that high gloss, it'll reduce the surface friction and allow the ball to skid farther down the lane. A second method for normal lanes is to clean the pores of the ball. Take some lighter fluid or some alcohol and wipe that ball off, especially in the ball track area. Get the ball clean where it'll roll smoothly down the lane. And for extremely slick lanes, the pros use an alternative method. They take some rosin, they tap that on the ball track, in the track area where the ball rolls, and fill the pores of the bowling ball with rosin, remembering to wipe it off before you roll the ball. This will allow the ball to bite more on the slick lane. Regardless of what adjustment you make for lane conditions, remember the American Bowling Congress rule. Whatever you apply to the ball surface, it cannot make the surface softer or leave a residue on the bowling lane.
Roger Staubach for Rolaids.
How do you spell relief?
R-O-L-A-I-D-S.
Won his second match, 191, 7 strikes. Ernie Schlegel's 180. He will shoot first. He's going against Pete Weber. This should be the match of the day.
Roommates, doubles partners. They've lived and traveled together many years out here on the tour, but all that's set aside here as they attack each other for the big money. Semi-final match.
And right away, Rumi has the pressure put on him. 21-year-old Pete Weber. Remember him? Well, he was on our telecast last week. The Denver Open, he finished 3rd, winning over Jerry Kessler, Henry Gonzalez in the 2nd, then losing to the eventual winner, John Gant. Also this year, he had to face Nelson Burton Jr. in Bo's record performance. Tough year. High hit, a 6.
Pete just tearing the cover off the ball the last couple of weeks. He's really got his game sharp, and he's getting tremendous lift. And the most important thing is his nerves are so steady as he trusts the ball all the way. Now watch his style. He has that real high backswing, and he gets actually locked through it, and then a good solid lift.
Remember, here's the 21-year-old that finished 2nd overall in a field of 160 at one time. dropped to 24th, but he can come back.
Well, with that power that he has, the tremendous power, and he's got it under control, and he's not pulling the ball. He's giving it plenty of room, letting that light hit take effect. He can come back from anywhere. He can throw 5-6 strikes in a row when he's completely lost and turn a game completely around.
Has a wireless microphone on. Pick up any comments he might make.
Hook, hook.
You heard him say hook.
And there's that power and revolution and angle that we were speaking about. Watch the head pin. Goes to the sideboard, takes out the 2, 4, 5, and 7. That's the best hit for Pete Weber with all that power. Keep it light and watch him strike.
Fahy now opened with a strike, shooting in the second frame. His third game of the afternoon. The double. Total concentration for this 225-pounder. Nearly outweighs his opponent by 100 pounds. Here's a replay.
Fahy using a little power of his own. Look at how wide that ball is, 10 feet from the pins, and he drives through the 1-3. The 6 drives out the 10 pin. That's that lift and angle. Watch his reaction as he takes a 10-pin lead over Pete Weber. They are going to be some duo in the doubles at the Showboat, Chris, in 2 weeks. They are tough, both in top shape.
Wow. Three-bagger. So now Pete Weber is quickly up. The man that won a PBA regional title when he was 16.
No doubt about it. 6 in the 10, drives them all in the pit. Fahy is perfect through 3 frames, has a 20-pin lead. Pete Weber could cut that lead to 10 with a double.
He's a talker. That double was so important.
A player just cannot roll a more powerful controlled ball than that, Chris. He just let it out there as relaxed as can be. Nice, steady nerves, good arm swing, and just let the ball and power take effect. He can even the match up with a double right here. Watch the angle this ball hits the pin. Drives through the 1, 3, 5, almost misses a 9. The ball was hardly even slowed down by the pins. Here's to even the matchup with a strike.
A 10. Fans were rooting for him.
Wife Dee Dee a bit dejected on that shot, but this match is a long way from over. This could be the best match and has so far of the day. Weber with a conversion would trail Mark Fahy by 11 pins through 4 frames.
Stuck a bit at the line, throwing him off balance, but nevertheless covered the 10 to mark with a spare. Weber trails Mark Fahy by 11 pins. More of our semifinal game after this.
People think I always take the train because I'm afraid of flying.
Check your local listings to see if you'll get Toronto against the Tigers or Cincinnati against the Dodgers. 8 Eastern. Live coverage, Monday Night Baseball.
I'm going for Toronto in the Detroit team, Chris. You got Barfield on Toronto hitting some home runs, and Parrish, the catcher, there on Detroit. 2 teams that are really fighting it out.
Boy, Mark Fahy. He has strung 4 in his 3rd game of the afternoon.
2 teams fighting it out on Monday Night Baseball. 2 opponents here, 2 heavyweights in the game of bowling fighting it out here in the semifinal match. Mark Fahy, as you can see, perfect through 4. Weber, a little wide in the first frame, made the spare. Double in the second, third, solid 10-pin in the 4th. The match is still up for grabs. This is going to be a high-scoring match. Fahy takes a second re-rack, Chris.
Never cashed here at Golden Pin Lanes. Thus far this year, he's earned $19,655. Weber has earned $32,540. Last year, Pete earned $70,065 for 8th.
That is Mark Fahy's last re-rack. He's allowed 3, and then he has to task National Tournament Director Harry Golden to come out and inspect any more re-racks as he sets himself on the approach. See him wince a little bit as he stuck that middle finger in the ball. It's got a big water blister on it that broke open last night.
And now he has put together 5 strikes. In his 2 victories, 7 strikes in each game.
And people wonder why they ask for re-racks. You have to have the pins exactly on spot. Although you're allowed a tolerance of a 1/4 inch on each one, sometimes that won't be enough to get a strike. And there he used every bit of that tolerance just to knock out the 10-pin. Pete Weber needs to get some strikes going.
There's one. Bo, the hands in bowling. You all are very tough. Like Mark said, he just keep practicing to try to numb that area. It's an awful looking area. I can think of some of the other sports that go to the emergency room to get treated. You don't have that opportunity here.
Player just has to patch up his hand, and some players just have a little more problems with their hand than others. 2 crankers or power players like Weber and Fahy always will have a little trouble with their hands. Tremendous friction as they release the ball. Finish.
Now the youngest of the Weber clan with his wife Dee Dee. Pete has put together a double.
He's saying, come on. This is a key shot. You can tell by his reaction. Now let's see if Fahy can continue to apply the pressure. He's perfect through 5.
Possible $10,000 bonus.
Last week we had John Gant with 6 in a row, Chris. He missed in the 7th. Let's see if Mark Fahy can go past that mark. Even though there's a 31-pin lead, the match is far from over. You know, young Pete Weber is bowling so well. He still has a possible 269. 4 big frames left.
Number 7 for Mark Fahy of Chicago, Illinois. His opponent, Pete Weber. More after this. World High Diving and a preview of the United States Open. Here is non-winner Ron Palombi Jr. of Erie, Pennsylvania, the tournament leader who will meet the winner of this semifinal match. And he sees that his work is cut out for him because here's Pete Weber with a double up shooting in the 7th, trailing by 41 pins against a perfect Mark Fahy.
Come on, finish.
As he said, it didn't finish.
The right-hand lane on a championship pair is slicker or tighter, whatever you want to call it, than the left-hand lane. You see this ball trying to hook, and just can't make it back to the strike zone. Pete leaves the 210. He needs to hit the 2-pin on the left and drive it over into the 10 to convert the split. It's going to be close.
So it's a disastrous open frame for Pete Weber in his 2nd consecutive appearance at our live telecast last week in Denver. All right.
Pete collecting his thoughts. This match is still not over. Pete Weber, a possible 235. That would force Mark Fahy to at least mark out.
Now that one did finish on the left lane. Mark Fahy is up 7 strikes in a row. He had 7 strikes in each of his 2 victories, but they were placed a little differently than those right now in this semifinal match.
Pete Weber's ball, just be envious, Bo Burton. That ball can knock them all down. Looks a little bit like Durbin's in his younger day, but his doesn't finish like that anymore either, Chris.
I've seen you both do it. That visual tells the story. 7 consecutive. And now make it 8.
That's the match, Chris. That just about puts away young Pete Weber. That's $8,250 locked in his pocket, but he's going for a bigger goal. The $10,000 and the first man since 1974 when Jim Stefanich did it in Alameda to roll a perfect game on ABC television. Has 8 in a row, 9th frame. That shot in the 9th frame. Dynamite performance by
26-year-old Mark Fahy. Watch him run it out.
Just a little extra speed. Boy, oh boy. Just if he had softened up a bit, he might have gotten it back. Has the 2.5. Straight into him.
Remember, Fahy shot a 227 with 7 strikes. A 191 in his second victory over Schlegel. And now Pete Weber. 9th.
That figures.
He says that figures. How true. Pete Weber.
Pete will finish third, taking home a check of $6,000. Fahy will go on to meet Ron Palombi Jr., a nice young man with a powerful bowling ball who is our tournament leader.
So, coming up, Mark Fahy in his 4th match of the afternoon against tournament leader Ron Palumbi. PBT will continue after this message. Harlem Globetrotters from Hong Kong next on Wide World of Sports with high diving and a preview of the United States Open. 3-part show. Watch it and enjoy it.
160-man field, Chris, 211, pretty high to cash. 53rd spot was garnered by Bowker and Houston, and 217 to make the top 24. And let's look at some of those other players as you see Casey Berry in 6th, real close. Your guy, Mike Edwards, all-world Holman up there. Larry Lobb, the house pro here, Jim Winklepeck. Walter Ray Williams, who finished 2nd in that horseshoe pitching tournament in Springfield last week. Wayne Webb, Bob Warren Jr., who's also from Erie, Pennsylvania, our tournament leader. David Ozio, whose wife is expecting their first child in September. You got Charlie Tapp, Pappas, Messmer up there, Steve Fair up and down all week. Powerful Randy Johnson, Henry Gonzalez, the finalists on the TV. There's the buzzsaw, John Gant, Don Bentz, and Steve Martin from Great Falls, Montana. Great college player, round out the top 24.
All right, there you see what has happened thus far. The name Fahy on the left-hand side. He has won 3 matches, and now his problem is Ron Palumbi Jr. of Erie, Pennsylvania, a 21-year-older, 6 feet 3 inches tall, weighs 190 pounds. His 2nd year on the tour, first championship round appearance in his 2-year career. He placed 9th in the Kessler Classic in Indianapolis and 14th in the Kessler Open in San Jose. One more practice ball, and it was a perfect practice ball. He'd like to take it back. Fahy against Palumbi.
Ron Palumbi, 6 practice balls, Chris, before the championship round. Mark Fahy is not allowed a practice ball, as Palumbi has decided to start the match. No matter who wins, there will be another new face in the Firestone Tournament of Champions next April, knocking out Gil Sliker.
Leaving a 10-pin.
Very short follow-through on that particular shot. Tentative shot. Gets a good break as he doesn't get the split. Has a cross-lane single-pin spare of the 10-pin. He'll be glad to get this first frame out of the way. Nice young man. Good athlete. Reminds me a little bit of John Gant that we had last week up there in the #1 position.
Could become the Saturday afternoon matinee idol.
Good-looking boy, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Well, that'll relieve any tensions. You saw the smile sort of come on his face because he nearly blew the 10-pin. But he marked with a spare, and that's what counts. Now, Mark Fahy qualified 4th. He has 3 victories, 22 strikes in 3 games. There you see people that he has defeated the last 2 matches. He defeated Randy Stoughton in the first. So there he goes.
There's what all the power players like to see, that trip 4. The 2-pin goes to the sideboard and drives the 4-7 out. Watch the 2-pin, the 3rd pin on the left-hand part of the screen. It goes to the sideboard, does the job on the 4-7. Mark Fahy takes off right where he started last game with a strike. Fahy using a urethane ball, Palumbi using a polyester bowling ball. Fingertip grip.
And the ring finger is the problem one for him, but he, as far as overcome it. A double. Also wearing a wireless microphone is this non-winner, Ron Palumbi Jr. of Erie.
Ron, who is taught bowling by his father, who is an excellent bowler. Ron says his father averages well over 200, and that's a good start for any young man.
Oh, he liked that. The bachelor from Erie, Pennsylvania.
6 foot 3 inches tall. It wraps that swing behind his back a little bit, but gets it down in good position and uses all that height and leverage. A good extension, good lift out over the lane, as Palombi can even the match if he can double here in the third frame. What a bad break. My goodness gracious, right in the pocket, even the match. Now watch the ball, what it does. It hits the 1, 3, and normally the ball will take out the 5 and the 9, and the 5 will take off out the 8. But there was so much power that he actually chopped the 5 straight back off the 8. Disappointed.
Good job covering that blown 8-pin. This is our championship game. Winner to get $16,000. The runner-up, $8,250. Pete Weber with a check for $6,000. Ernie Schlegel, $5,000. And Randy Stoughton of Indianapolis, $4,000 today. I hit 4-7.
Ooh, cut right through the heart. Had the 4-6-7 standing there for a moment and gets a good break off the right-hand sideboard. Watch the 3-pin standing. There's the 4-6, 3-pin to the sideboard, taking out the 6. A great break for Mark Fahy in the third frame.
This is the third stop spring tour professional bowlers tour telecast.
Mark Fahy has made 5 top 24 finishes on the professional bowlers tour in his last 5 tournaments, Chris, and that's really tough when you have 160-man field every week of the top players. To qualify the top 24 is really the hardest thing. Once you get into match play, you're guaranteed money. You have 24 games to improve your position in the tournament. Here, Fahy is all the way up to the championship match, bowling the best he has ever done in his whole life.
You like that one. Right back in the pocket. Mark Fahy. It is 4th game of the afternoon, now against the tournament leader, Ron Palumbi Jr. More following this.
When I started delivering beer back in 1890...
And show up on Tuesday. That makes a big difference. Trails by 9 pins, 5th frame.
Come on, ball. Hit!
His wishes granted on the left lane. Ron Palumbi Jr.
Saws that 5 out. 6-pin tomahawks the 10. Watch this. There goes the 5 over the 7. Look at that 6-pin do the damage on the right-hand part of the line. That's when you know you're throwing the ball with maximum power and control.
Here's the man that's really been throwing the ball. 3 victories. 4th match for him today. He has a strike-up shooting in the 5th. Important double for Mark Fahy here in the title game.
The psychology of match play is not only shown in the scoreboard, but it's shown with your performance on the lanes. Fahy answers Ron Palumbi Jr.'s tremendous power strike in the 5th with one of his own. Now watch this replay. Even more powerful than what we saw Palumbi do. Watch the 5 actually go behind the 4. The head pin comes off the sideboard and tears up the 4-7 area. Fahy leads by 19, 6th frame, double working.
And then there was this, the 4-9.
In every game, there's a tilt factor. You shake the machine too hard, and it says tilt. He went with so much power the last 2 frames, then he goes a little high and pays the penalty. Cuts right through the heart, leaves the 4-9 split. This has made the match almost even. Let's see how he attacks the split. It's close.
Oh, Well, the odds were 7-2 for the professional to convert that. But here again from Mark, an open frame in the 6th. Cutting his lead to 5. Taking the lead now, if he can strike in the 6th frame, will be Ron Palumbi. Timber, 6-10.
Trust is a must or your game is a bust. We've heard it many a time, and Palumbi just did not give the ball any room at all. He cuts right through the heart, almost leaves the 3-6-10, gets a good break. Taking that 3-pin out makes it much, much easier. He still has to guard against the chop of the 6 off the 10. If he converts, he'll trail by 5 through 6 frames.
Wasting no time, Ron Palumbi, looking for his first win.
Palumbi trying to be only the 5th player to win from the #1 seed in the championship round this year. The first one was George Pappas at the Showboat, then Hugh Miller at the Quaker State, Roth at the U.S. Open, and we saw Don Janelle in our opening spring tour telecast in Seattle win from the #1 spot. Palumbi trying to make it the 5th player.
No 300 games this week here in Tucson. 299 by George Pappas, who left a 5-pin in the last frame. High hit produces a 6.
Such a nice young man out there, and he's just a little bit confused as you see what the pins are looking at, and as the ball comes right towards him, Palumbi swings that swing a little bit behind his body, has a good inside-out release, just doesn't give it quite enough room as he's playing between the 2nd and 3rd arrows, breaks up the split, and easy spare the 6-pin.
Product of Mercyhurst High School in Erie, where he played baseball and basketball. Former boxer Mark Fahy of Chicago. Now shooting in the 7th frame. Leading by 6, 124 through 6. Seventh frame strike.
Fahy's only championship was the Miller High Life Open, where he was just awesome in the championship game. Right now can win his 2nd title if he can close out Palumbi. There's only 6 pins separate the 2 players. A pivotal frame, the 8th frame, strike working.
Now it's really pumping. Mark Fahy. Palumbi with a spare up. He'll be shooting in the 8th.
Puts all the beef behind that one and a little sauce on it. Watch his reaction. He likes this shot. Runs it out.
Oh, technically beautiful. Our technical director here today, Bobby Bernthal, and one of his colleagues and our friends that we've worked with a lot over the years, has been hospitalized in New York City at Mount Sinai, Joe Nisi, and we hope he continues his recovery. He enjoys a match like this.
This is the frame for Ron Palombi Jr. 19-5 tournament record in the championship finals. Needs this strike to get in the match.
A 4.
Boy, he really needed that one. Ball goes a little high. The 2-pin goes to the sideboard. Oh, trips out the 7, but just doesn't quite get the 4. So close, a 64th an inch. What a big difference that would have made. Palumbi going at a 198 pace. The best he can shoot is 208. Fahy going at a 214 pace. Palumbi's in trouble.
Frustrating game. As the tournament leader, Ron Palumbi Jr. had 5 games of 279 or better. Yet here, when he needed the big game, deserted him.
Well, he's been close, Chris. He had just a tough break in the 3rd frame where he left a solid 8 on a strike where he could have taken the lead. And then here in the 9th frame, he could have tripped the 4-pin to put some pressure on Fahy. Now it's all up to Mark Fahy. Fahy can take the title if he can strike here in the 9th and 10th.
Wobbly 7.
It's not over yet. Fahy with a spare would be going at a 2:13 pace. He would need a mark in the 10th. The line of Mark Fahy between the 2nd and 3rd arrows, playing the track area. Then that sharp break at the back end. Head pin to the sideboard. Drives out to 2-4-5, but leaves the 7. Ooh. Almost handed to him, Chris.
Yes, he did.
That would have made a match of it. The situation for Mark Fahy is he needs a good count and a mark to win the title. Fahy going at a 2:13 pace, if he'd happen to open, be down in the low 200s, would give Palumbi an opportunity to double in the 10th and take the title.
Is he excited?
Holy cow, did he put the sauce to that ball? That I don't know how the 5-pin missed that 7-pin. He drove it over there so hard. Watch this replay. Look at his hand spread. He knows it's a victory shot. Watch the 5-pin. Rockets over behind the 7. The head pin and 2-pin slide in front of the 7. Now he must make this spare for the title.
He knew it the minute he put more of the ball on that 7-pin than he did in his last try at a 7.
Needs 7 pins. Lock up the title. If he'd happen to get 6, Palumbi could tie the match. 5, Palumbi could get up and win. 7 pins, 8 pins, 9 pins, or a strike. Fahy wins his 2nd title. It's not over, Chris.
No, look at that.
2:07. The situation for a stunned Ron Palumbi. Look at this. Fahy lets it slide by, leaves the 1, 2, 7, 8, 10. A 2:07 finish. Watch his. I got to see the reaction of his face. Watch it when he sees the pin count. He can't believe it. Ron Palumbi can win this tournament, Chris.
And wisely, Ron Palumbi came over to check the score sheet of Frank Esposito to make sure.
Reminiscent of the Southern California Open last year when Don Janello got a 5 count and allowed Jimmy Prince to win. Palumbi needs 2 strikes and 9 to tie, 3 strikes to win. Whew.
All right. Hit ball.
There's one. Hit ball, and I guess it did. Ah, this is performance.
All 10 in the pit. His finest shot of the match. He needs this strike. Mark an unbelieving Fahy.
3 victories coming into this championship game, starting the number 4 position. Said that the folks in Erie, Pennsylvania are tough.
For Ron Palombi Jr., nobody really needs to say it, but we have to. The biggest shot of his life. If he strikes, he wins the title. If he gets 9, we have a tie and a 2-frame sudden death roll-off. If he gets 8, Mark Fahy's the winner. Palumbi, 8, he loses. 9, he ties. Go into a roll-off. Strike, he wins.
Asks for a re-rack. Gets it. On the right lane. Here is the shot. Winning it the hard way. Goes into the Firestone Tournament of Champions. He wins it by 8-10. Pete Contis, PBA member and general manager here, congratulates the Tucson Open winner. Wow.
Easy to refill plastic bottles. Coming up next, ABC's Wide World of Sports featuring the Harlem Globetrotters in Hong Kong.
the Men's World High Diving Championship.
Prizes.